Anything you can do, I can do better, says Scott Woodward as he has started to fire back here. As maybe a little birdie hinted to your boy that around 1 p.m. Central Standard Time that Scott Woodward was going to be firing back at the governor. As a piece came out by Ross Dellenger just now of Yahoo Sports, and it seems as if that Scott Woodward and Governor Jeff Landry are at a standstill. Now, you may be asking yourself the simple question, well, Blake, if he can push on from a president, if he has autonomy to fire a head coach, why hasn't he fired Scott Woodward yet? And what I would tell you is I think that this thing is starting to become imminent about Scott Woodward. But nevertheless of all that, it doesn't mean that the toxicity war doesn't stop. Now, I am going to suggest to you to go and read the entire piece from Ross Dellenger of what had just been released. But, you know, little birdies start chirping around here and there, and that's why your boy goes live at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we're normally on Thursdays live at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Scott is going to use Ross Dellenger to fire back. He's going to use anonymous quotes that are going to be factual. You're going to say, well, where did these sources come from? Where is Ross getting that? And I'm going to tell you that some of the same things that are going to come in this report when you read it are going to be factual. Like high-ranking athletic members and people's representatives in the great state of Louisiana are going to say, why does a governor think that he is bigger than LSU football when he's not? And to the point is that no sitting governor really, from a public figure standpoint, is bigger than not only the sport, but LSU football in and of itself. You know, here's what mature people would do. Mature people on both sides would stop the toxicity war if they actually love this place. Now, I am not saying that Scott Woodward shouldn't fire back and fight for his job. It's not what I'm saying here. But what I am saying here is very simple. The toxicity is just started. It's just getting going. In the Ross Dellenger piece that was released about 15 minutes ago, there was a quote, "Why are we looking," says one anonymous source, "why are we looking to replace a guy that brought 3 national championships, now 4, with Jay Johnson winning 2 national championships in 3 years, to replacing him? Just because Brian Kelly did not have success does not mean that he should be moved on from." Yeah, you know why it is? Because they're not politically aligned. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. Guys, I don't think that you need a law degree. I don't think you need to be a brain surgeon. I don't think that you need anything other than common sense to see what's going on here from internally inside of LSU, right? Meaning internally, let's look at this thing in its entirety. Jeff Landry is elected as the state's governor. Great. A lot of people voted for him. He is the governor. It's what a lot of you chose inside this great state. All of a sudden, randomly, there were some chirps and rumors about how the governor and the president did not see eye to eye at all on a lot of things. You know, the governor coming out and saying that and getting after Kim Mulkey in reference to them not going out there and standing for the national anthem when they've never been out there for the national anthem, and you all remember that story. But what they were really doing was they were sitting in the locker room holding hands and praying with the president's wife, who was the team chancellor. Wonder if that had anything to do and involved in it. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. But in the speculation and all of this, I just ask a simple question. Why did William Tate leave for Rutgers when he was doing everything that he thought was in the best interest of LSU athletics and things were going somewhat smoothly to some extent? I don't think William Tate leaves for Rutgers if the president does not want to move on from, or if the governor does not want to move on from him. Now a guy who sits as your sitting athletic director is now firing back and calling the governor out on everything and basically how Brian Kelly got fired. Guys, you know how he got fired. Board of Supervisors were called to the governor's mansion. They went through the documents. Jeff Landry confirmed it today in Ross Dellenger's story on Pat McAfee that we'll get to in just a minute, saying on Sunday, I called the Board of Supervisors over to the mansion. Next, we went through the contract, and he's fired. Now, Governor Jeff Landry said he read the contract and said that if somebody does not give the money, that the taxpayers are involved in this. And I don't know if I've read that contract for it to say that. I don't know if it does say it, but he says it does. The bottom line here is this. You have an alignment war that's going on right now. Now, last night, I came out and said, guys, if you're a sitting head coach, you have got to be worried if you take the job here about alignment. Now, some of you came back and fired back and said, well, Blake, somebody's going to have a whole new alignment. They're going to know, it's going to be a new AD. They don't know who the new AD is. And guys, by the way, I don't know if this is going to be able to be transpired in 30 days. Maybe it does. But right now, it's October the 30th. A month from now, it will be November the 30th. And there's a strong chance that maybe some of these top targets like Lane Kiffin, well, they might be in the playoffs and they might not be your head coach yet. I don't know if you can fire and hire an athletic director in 30 days. Does Scott Woodward sue the governor? Does he sue the board of supervisors? Does he claim that there's a wrongful termination suit and it gets passed and they leave him in as the athletic director? Because I don't think Scott Woodward's going away quietly. I think he's going to let his story be told, and he's going to fight this to the bitter end. This is going to be a revolving door every single day of toxicity, whether you like it or not. Now, Governor Jeff Landry was on the Pat McAfee show, and let me tell you one thing. I am not trying to call out Pat McAfee here, but one thing I did not like in that interview was that Pat McAfee was trying to sound that he had a Cajun accent. Number one, I think that's very stupid. I don't like it. Brother, what are you doing? It was awkward. It was extremely awkward. Brother, stop that. Pat McAfee isn't the pinnacle of what guys like I do. Please don't do that. People in Louisiana don't like that shit. I understand you think it's cool. It's not cool. Stop. Please stop. But Governor Jeff Landry was on with Pat McAfee this morning. And last night we discussed about the incentive latent contracts. And you were warned. I went back through all of your comments today, by the way, with all of you in the comments and super chats telling me it's not true, that's not going to happen. Well, your governor, who said that he's not getting involved, is now out here promising and saying, if you're a really good coach and you win, why wouldn't you want it? Why wouldn't you want a merit-based contract? Guys, he's saying that's where they're going to go. Then Pat McAfee does a really good job and say, well, Governor, are you over LSU? I'm genuinely asking. And he goes, no, I appoint the board of supervisors and they respond to me. They report to me. Do you think the words that he said yesterday, do you think the words that he said today, guys, if you are so holding on to hope on that he won't be involved, you are wrong. I'm sorry to tell you this, you are wrong. Now, on that point, I am not saying that he shouldn't have a say. If he goes and gets Lane Kiffin, you will be reelected, brother. You will be reelected. If you do the right thing for the team, if you do the right thing for the football program, by all means, we stand behind you. But at the same time, it makes everybody around here nervous because they don't think that coaches will align with you based off of a merit-based contract and based off of some of the things that you've said. You gave a guy $53 million to walk away. Does LSU football, does the booster base have the level of money to do all of this? They do. And I don't think that Brian Kelly's non-embracive maneuvers when it comes to getting in front of billionaires, and I mean billionaires with a B, billionaires. Austin Thomas has no business, with all due respect to Austin Thomas, sitting at a table with billionaires when the head coach can go get that money himself. The head coach of LSU should be able to get a Rolodex of 10 to 15 billionaires, which, by the way, LSU does have. One of them, Joel Klatt, kind of brought up and is really good friends with Joel Klatt. Like, hey, man, this dude said that he will give serious money. And by the way, he will. He just didn't understand the whole Brian Kelly situation. You call 1-800-Cajun and you put the phone to your ear and say, hey, dog, I need this. All right, coach, how much you need? And it's over with. I'm not saying general managers and Austin Thomas don't need to be involved. They do. And Austin can help in a lot of that. But when the head coach of LSU calls, you pick the phone up. You get what I'm saying? Scott's going to continue to fire back. It's not going to save his job, in my opinion. There are a couple of things that we're going to get to here today. Do I think that Scott Woodward has an outside chance to save his job? Yeah, I do. I think he's got an outside chance. But I don't know how far he makes it when next Tuesday happens on November the 4th and the new president's in office at LSU. I don't know how far he makes it. It's the first move to fire Scott Woodward. And if it is, then, guys, this is going to get even more toxic here. Because one of the first moves that I anticipate to be made, well, it's going to be that one. All right, let's get moving here. Everyone do us a favor and hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Every AYS Sports Show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Every show is going to be partnered with our good friends this football season with FanDuel. Download the FD Sportsbook app today if you're on Android or Apple iPhone. You can go hit your parlays, your futures. All of your bets should be placed with our good friends over at FD Sportsbook. Again, we're greatly proud and honored to be partnered this football season and beyond with our good friends over at FanDuel. If you have any thoughts and questions, go over to FanDuel.com/RG for more details. But we are going to continue to be sponsored and powered by our good friends over at FanDuel, and we greatly, greatly appreciate them being a part of everything that we're doing. All right. Let's get to it here. I see that Frank Castle's already pretty mad at me inside the chat. So there it is. K-Dog with a $10 super chat says, I know it's a loaded question, but with LSU and Florida both looking for coaches and Florida all in on Lane Kiffin, could this turn into a bidding war? If so, who's got the edge to land him? I don't know. I sincerely don't know. K-Dog. It depends on what Lane Kiffin and Jimmy Sexton want. Now, Pat McAfee today on ESPN on his show, the McAfee Show, whatever it's called, Pat McAfee Show, basically told the governor, hey, dog, I know that your heart's in the right place for this incentive-laden deal, but you ain't going to get the top head coaches if you do that. And I'm glad Pat McAfee called him out on it because he's not. Maybe Lane Kiffin would say, listen, I just want to be at LSU, and I have a massive incentive-laden deal. Maybe. But let me tell you this, because when we get out of the break, we're talking about some things that I heard that happened last night that were absolutely insane. Is there hope? Maybe. But I think a lot of people on the Board of Supervisors had to do a lot of calming down as of last night, so we'll talk about that. Tariq Jabbar became a member on the YouTube channel along with Shane Smith and along with Michael Fort. Thank you, all three of you, for becoming members of the YouTube channel. We greatly, greatly appreciate that. Handy Dandy Sandy also became a member on the YouTube channel. So to all four of you, we greatly, greatly appreciate it. We talked extensively the other day on a members-only content here on YouTube. We talked about the quarterback position and everything that I think is going on and what might happen there after today's show. Why don't you go over there and take a look? But thank you so much, all four of you, for becoming members of the YouTube channel. Let's get to Frank Castle because he went off here and sent a lot of money. So let's talk to Frank. Frank, and I listen, let's roll through all of these because so everybody who's sending super chats will get to yours after this, but I'm going to go down all Frank's because he's sending a shitload of money. Frank goes, so now there's hope. Interesting, Blake. We'll talk about that, Frank, a little bit more detail of some things that I personally heard coming out of the break. So I'm not going to spoil that one yet. He also says you can't logically concede that Landry won't touch Summerall because he'll risk politically enraging the wrong people. You can't logically concede that Landry won't touch Summerall. You can't logically concede. I don't really know what that means. However, I'm going to have to see him do it. Some of the fights with other billionaires who I know for a fact have asked him, Frank, you can believe me or not. I don't know if he'll do it. Literally in the conversation with Pate or John Summerall here, any conversations I had about John Summerall have started with and ended with, I'm going to need to see him do that. I don't believe he will get in a political war over this one. Not in this one. I don't, Frank. Not from some things that I've heard. So concede or not concede, I don't know if he's going to do that. Frank with a $10 super chat says, then claim he's going to risk enraging even richer, more powerful people by dictating the next coaching search, a search that doesn't include the big fish money wants. Then claim he's going to risk enraging even richer, more powerful people by dictating the next coaching search. I don't, Frank, they are mad. Frank, people are mad. Do you think that people are not mad about some of the things that were said yesterday? Because the Board of Supervisors, basically, and Scott Ballard, who is a multi-millionaire, by the way, do you think that he wasn't mad by those comments? Frank, you got it on video that there are people that are enraged by this. I don't know. Frank with a $5 super chat says, and before you say something clever back, you know I've got you intellectually pinned on this one, and you don't have to admit it. How do you have me intellectually pinned? You don't have, Frank, I worked in a place for 11 years with more context on that part of the ground than you did. And I am telling you, for a fact, there have been multiple big money donors for other institutions not named LSU and that will back Tulane in legislatures who are telling him you will have a political war on your hands. Democrats have came out and said, watch, you do it and see what we do in the city of New Orleans, and we will enrage it. Frank, you don't have to believe me. I'm not intellectually pinned while you're sending a shitload of money, which I always greatly appreciate, but we're having a discussion. You don't have to believe me. You can, you don't have to, but I know that it happened. I'm telling you it happened. So believe it, don't believe it, that's up to you. He also says, my point remains, Landry doesn't matter. Landry does matter. He does matter. They will get who they want this time around because money opinions were dismissed last time. It will, Frank. It will. Mainly due to the point that he's going to make, and he's already saying that he's advising the Board of Supervisors to do incentive-laden contracts. Okay. If you think he doesn't matter, then I don't know. All right, last one here for a little bit. Frank with a $100 super chat. Frank's is basically paying for everything. He's paying for my entire mortgage this episode. Thank you, though, Frank. You know that here's the thing about Frank, if you don't know, if it's your first time watching, I think Frank and I can do this. Frank can push back, I can push back, and I think Frank still loves me. That's what I think. Blake, if Lanning, Kiffin, or Elko isn't the next head coach of LSU, I'll donate $1,000 to AYS. If I'm wrong, nothing has to happen. The only risk that you being overly worried, which I appreciate, would you like to make a deal officially right now in front of the public? No, because I still think it could be Lane Kiffin, because I think Kiffin would accept a latent deal. If you take Kiffin out of that, then yes. Any other coach not named Kiffin and is not a big name, yes, I'd accept it. If you want to donate $1,000 to AYS just because you love me and you think I'm a good-looking person, then you can just go ahead and donate $1,000. I do think Kiffin would do it, Frank. I don't think anybody else would do it. But I do think that there's a shot. Frank also says, did we get to this one? Yes. Okay. Let's get to a couple more of these. But thank you, Frank. You know I love you. What up, Blake? Curious. I tweeted this a couple days ago. Hypothetically, we pull Kiffin or Lanning. We're not getting Dan Lanning. You think we could pull DK Moore or Taylor Green in the portal? Doesn't Taylor Green, he's out of eligibility? I think it depends on DK Moore. Love the show, listening from Dripping Springs, Texas. That's what she said. I don't think Taylor Green has any eligibility left, does he? I could be wrong there, Jerry. I don't know. I do not know that. I don't know that. DK Moore is going to be an interesting conversation. If you're asking me with my connection to DK Moore, I, at the current moment, would say no. If Dan Lanning did come, yes. But I don't, because the portal opens, they may be in the playoffs, and I don't think he's going in the portal. He's getting paid too much money. So, no. No, I don't think you'd get him this go around. You could later, but not right now. Not right now. Greenhead Father says, Blake, do the boosters put him in his place? I hope they do. Let me get to this. I hope they do. But I don't know if they will, because it seems like he, more than money, wants the power. Frank says, Blake, I love giving AYS my money. He says they already have. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear, Frank. He also says, I love you, Blake. Zero anger. I'm a tedious man to enrage. Last time I lost, it was last month at the gun range. I was flagged and I wasn't happy about it. Yeah, Frank, it's all love here, buddy. You know I love you. Listen, Frank, you know what I'm doing here. There's a couple of things. Number one, I'm going based off the John Summerall thing that I heard, based off of just people that, Frank, that I've known for over a decade who are still in that life. I'm not in that life anymore, and I don't want to be in that life anymore. It's not worth it. Again, I can only say what I can say and have said. I don't know what he would do, and that's why I said with Josh Pate, Josh, with this getting politically the way that it is, I don't know if it will go the way that it will go there. There are a lot of people, I'm telling you, I'm not thinking about this. There have been a lot of people that have told him, don't do that, regardless if John Summerall does come or not. Now, hold on. What you just heard me say was John Summerall will never be the next head coach at LSU. That's not what I said. He can easily say, I want John Summerall. Board of Supervisors, go get John Summerall, and he's the next head coach. Number one, as I've stated multiple times on this show, I would love John Summerall. I think he's a really freaking good coach, and he would do great here. He would recruit really well. He knows the coaches really well. He would raise money. He would do a great job here. I don't think that he's going to fight this one. He's got multiple battles that he's already fighting, from Scott Woodward, other boosters, Democrats that are high boosters that have given lots of money to athletics. Some of them who still are giving massive amounts of money for baseball and things like that. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But it's what I know to be true. It's what I know to be true. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get to a couple more of these super chats here. Cajun Curveball sends a $5 super chat, says, I've heard rumors that we have found ways to pay less of the buyout to Kelly because he had some ethics violations in the contract. Truth to it. I know that Jock put it out there. You know, I'm going to be careful what I say with Jock. I had a conversation with him. I'm going to let him roll all that down. That is on him. I have not personally heard that, no. I have not heard. What I personally have heard is that negotiations weren't going to start until around yesterday or early today. That's what I've heard. I have not heard that he took a buyout or took a pay cut on that. I have not heard that. So if it does come out that way, then it comes out that way. But I have personally not heard that yet. It very well could be the case. Here's the truth. I trust Jock. If that's what, I'm going to let him, because I know he deleted the post or whatever, I'm going to let him talk about that when it's his time to talk about it. But I have not personally heard that, no. Cajun Curveball also says, and they are putting hush-hush about the violation. I have not heard that. Again, not saying it didn't happen. I have not personally heard that. Lucas Blanchard with a $5 super chat says, read on 03 that Lanning's buyout to leave is $20 million. It's not $20 million. It's north of $20 million because he's got the building. He's got so many other things. Doesn't mean he can't leave, but if somebody wants Dan Lanning to be next head coach of LSU, you're going to have to spend a shitload of money. A shitload of money, and I don't know if they're going to do that. Shaquan on YouTube with a $10 super chat says, everything going on scares me because we got 9 SEC games next year and Clemson, the team at home that I'm sure is going to be much improved and looking for revenge. It should scare you. It should scare you. I mean, guys, who hits the portal for LSU? You don't know who your next head coach is going to be. OC, DC, quarterback. You have no idea what to expect for next season yet. And you can be nervous. You can be nervous. But the truth of the matter is here is you should be nervous. You should be. Michael became a member of the YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Michael. He also sends in a $10 super chat. Says, go out and pay Saban whatever he wants and make him the AD. He picks the next head coach and smooths out this mess. He gets to finish the LSU legacy, not offend Bama, be involved in football, but not NIL weeds. I don't think he'd do that. And here's the thing about Saban. I hear people saying to hire Nick Saban as next AD. The problem with that is I don't know if Nick's going to want to deal with all the other sports that goes along here with TV revenue. I don't think he's going to want to get involved in, hey, do I give Jay Johnson more money than men's basketball? I don't think he would do that. So going and hire him, I don't really think it'd be a smart situation here. I think in today's time right now, you need to get an established person who has been in an athletic department that understands what's going on. I love Nick, but Nick would be learning on the job. Football would be one thing. If you're going to do that, make him an overseer, give him a special title, do whatever you want if it's just football related. But you can't make him the all-out athletic director, in my opinion. It just wouldn't make a lot of sense. Lucas sends a $1 super chat. Thank you, Lucas. SWB with a $20 super chat says, I'm really confused on what's going on. So much fake news. Fill me in on the truth. Well, we'll do that after the break. What fake news, SWB, are you talking about? What do you want us to clear up, if any? All right, 3 more, then I actually got to get to the show here. We're halfway through the show, and I ain't even talked about anything. Just so many super chats flying in here. M. Dot says, Blake, if Frank can win out, how confident are you that he gets it? Not confident at all. Not confident at all. I don't know if Jeff Landry or the Board of Supervisors would pull that plug. Now, emotion is something that we don't have right now. What do I mean? If Frank Wilson goes, you'd have to beat Alabama, Arkansas, Western Kentucky, Oklahoma. If I'm not mistaken, that's the 4 games left that you have. He's going to have to go 4-0, and he's going to have to dominate some of those opponents. Emotion would have to bring into this like what happened with Ed Orgeron, right? Like that part is going to happen. I still don't know at the current moment, like, what are the emotions at the times? What are people saying? Are people pushing for Frank? Are former players pushing for Frank? Are current players pushing for Frank? Are boosters pushing for Frank? I don't think that would happen, personally. Right now, if you ask me today. However, it doesn't mean that it won't happen. Doesn't mean that it won't. But we'd have to see. All right, Frank, I'm going to get y'all's comments in just a minute. All right, I got to get to some stuff here. We'll come back and end the show. in just a minute, or finish the super chats in just a minute. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, some things I'm hearing about what is going on with the Board of Supervisors after what happened yesterday. We'll talk about some candidates maybe that could take a tier job if it's not some of those ones or the P4 job. And then we'll get to a quick recruiting update, and then we'll get to your super chats. Let me get to a quick break. We'll come back. We'll break some things down next. Stay with us.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man. He's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler. He'll shoot you straight.
Hey, guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick. We're back. Let's get moving here. So, last night after we got off the show, I started getting some interesting phone calls about what transpired in reference to what happened after Jeff Landry took the podium. Here's what I'm going to tell you that did happen yesterday. I do think that some members of the Board of Supervisors after yesterday's events started making phone calls to kind of calm the situation down. You know, when yesterday happens, and a lot of people say what they say, I do think the Board of Supervisors started making phone calls to powers that be, maybe letting some agents know, to some coaches, listen, you know, it's not going to go down that way, even though it is. I think that they try to calm some things down. Here's what I tell you. I do think a lot of people are going to be interviewed for this head coaching job. Lane Kiffin, I think that Eli Drinkowitz, I think Clark Lee, even John Summerall, even though I don't think it's happening. There are going to be a lot of people that are interviewed for this head coaching job. With all of that being said, I do think that this is, per what the governor said, I don't think that LSU is going to back down from this incentive-related deal. If they do, it's because the governor and the Board of Supervisors, for whatever reason, whether it be boosters or whomsoever, pin them in a corner, as Frank said a little bit earlier in the super chat. I don't know if that's going to happen, nor do I know if Jeff Landry is going to let that happen. I do think your next coach is going to have maybe a little bit more of a smaller base and buyout and say, hey, if you win here, you're going to get paid massively. If you don't, you're not. I don't think Jeff Landry walks out there and says some of those things he says today on Pat McAfee, some things he said yesterday in a press conference, if he doesn't mean it. Guys, I think we need to look at this in its totality for just a moment. We need to look at it in its totality of what has happened from the beginning. You have a sitting president who did not politically align with the governor. Fired. I say fired, pushed out. You have a sitting AD who was pushed out or is going to be pushed out or is trying to be pushed out because of the political stuff that is going on between him and Jeff Landry. Now, Jeff Landry, what he's currently doing is he is using this Brian Kelly firing to say that this was on Scott Woodward, and Scott Woodward's bad contract is the reason that Brian Kelly is out of here and we got to pay $53 million. Well, Scott Woodward didn't fire him. You did. Now, do I think Brian Kelly needed to go? That's a whole different topic for a different day. Scott Woodward did not fire a man, nor did he say, because you kept him out of the building, per reports, he didn't make you pay a $53 million buyout. You advised the Board of Supervisors to let Brian Kelly go. So I look at this whole situation and say, he has, without a shadow of a doubt, without question, has had his hands in the middle of things around LSU, whether we want to admit it or not, and he has tried to get involved here. I remind you, the situation with the women's basketball team, where he had a problem that they weren't out there standing in front of the anthem, and he got that one completely mixed up about what was happening. Omar the Tiger that was put on the field during Alabama, and they just had to sedate a very fat and overweight tiger, and they put him on the field, and he was so fat he could barely stand up. All of those things have happened, and Jeff Landry has constantly put his hands involved in LSU, whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him. Regardless of that, he has constantly had his hands involved in what is going on here. So either you agree or you don't. The number one consensus that you can't disagree with is he's had his hands in all of this. Right now, he is going on a national tour. I'm sure he will do local stuff at some point and talk about this situation. But legitimately, you are in a place in time where he is saying that we are going to do X, Y, and Z with the next coach. Hey, man, if you're really good, why don't you take an incentive-laden deal? If you win, why don't you take an incentive-laden deal? If you're going to be a really good coach, we'll compensate you for it, but we're not going to financially put ourselves in that spot. Now, Lane Kiffin on the same Pat McAfee show that Jeff Landry was on today, he said that money doesn't entice me, and Jimmy Sexton hates when I say that, but I really want to win. And what is the best fit for me and my family? And I do believe Lane when he says that. I don't think that this throws away things with Lane at all. Now, if I were a betting man, this is how I would bet some things did go down last night. After all the chaos and turmoil went through yesterday and even into today, I would not be shocked if at some point in the near future, or maybe in the end of all of this, that when all of this started going down, that you won't hear a story that sounds a little something like this. Board of Supervisors contacted what they believed to be their top target when all of this was going down to try to calm down the situation, not only with the head coach that they were going after, but with his agent, and saying, listen, yes, we want to do it this way, and it is up to you if you want to do an incentive-laden deal. And negotiations are negotiations are negotiations. We don't know if any of this is going to pass. But I got some people that I talked to last night who are in the situation, not around the situation, in the situation, that have specifically told me that things were tried to be calmed down last night by the Board of Supervisors. And I believe them. I think that that's where you're going to go. Now, I don't think that changes things for Kiffin. I massively believe that changes things for a guy like Dan Lanning. I don't know if it doesn't change something for a guy like Eli Drinkwitz, who says to himself, man, I wouldn't mind going and taking the Florida job, and if they're going to give me a lot of money guaranteed, I wouldn't mind that. Other coaches that are out there that are big names, I don't know if they would do something that Lane Kiffin would do. It also looks in a situation, I know a lot of people have brought up Saban. Do you give Saban a 4-year, $60-something million contract? I don't know. But it kind of feels as if that would be out of the question now for a guy like Nick Saban. All that to say is this. I do think the governor has got to stop meddling publicly. If you want to mess with it, if you want to be in charge of it behind the scenes, by all means. But publicly, I don't know if you can do that and think that some of these coaches are going to want to be in that part of a situation. Now, I do think it's an interesting point that the opposite side of this could be where you look at this situation and say to yourself, well, Blake, if a sitting governor is here from a financial standpoint, they're going to want to back him in NIL. And I agree with you there. So I do, but I think anybody is going to have that, whether it's a contract or not a contract, a massive buyout or not a massive buyout. Guys, this is how these contracts work. Now, I will tell you this. LSU football last year, for what it's worth, grossed, not netted, but they grossed well over $173 million last year. Brian Kelly might be paid $53 million. So when I look at $53 million and in 1 year, his budget over the next 6 years isn't barely over 6% of what the total revenue is going to be. Meaning it's going to be, as time goes on, less than like 2%. So I don't think that, like, you're running a $200 million a year business. Basically what I'm saying, because those numbers are going to continue to go up. So a guy getting paid $10 million a year who's running a $200 million business, those kinds of guarantees are going to happen. They happen everywhere. The bottom line is, I do agree with the governor on a couple of things. I do think that these buyouts are getting absolutely ridiculous, but you have billionaires that are paying them. And I do think that you're going to have a billionaire that's going to pay this one for you too, when it comes down to it. The bottom line remains. You sit in a very interesting conversation, or a very interesting situation. Do you now have to look more into a guy like Kenny Dillingham, Jeff Brom, John Summerall, Alex Golish, Ryan Silverfield at Memphis? That's up to the Board of Supervisors and Jeff Landry. But guys, this one's become very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. If you ask me, I think if Lane Kiffin wants this job, he's going to have to kind of concede some of the guaranteed money. I think he's going to have to. Unless somebody can get to Jeff Landry and say, hey, not only will I pay this for Lane Kiffin, I'll give money to your campaign fund. Maybe that will entice him enough. But as it sits right now, they're not going to do it, guys. They're going to go with an incentive-laden deal. He would not come out here publicly saying that, only to take the L on the back end. The only other thing in the caveat that I'd say to that, some of us, myself included, could be getting duped. Blake, what do you mean we could be getting duped? Jeff Landry is a politician. There could easily be a situation where he is out here and saying all of what he's saying, and behind closed doors, they are doing something different. Very well could be happening here. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Like, everybody knows around the country from an athletic department standpoint that LSU's got a shitload of money. Everybody understands that. I don't think that that's I don't even think that that's something that's not common knowledge at this point. So why would you have to go out there and make this thing toxic? You get what I'm saying? Like, who are you trying to deceive here? If you're trying to deceive everybody, and these words aren't your words, and I don't know if the governor's trying to take L's at this point, because if you go do and give someone $95 million guaranteed, then everything that you just said about Scott Woodward, everything that you just said is a moot point. So I don't think that they're doing that. But why, if you're trying to deceive everybody to be doing things behind closed doors, why in the world do you even have to do it? You could keep your mouth quiet and just say, and I'm not, that's not what I'm telling the governor to do. You could keep the situation quiet and not have to do some of the things that you're doing to scare people off. Bottom line here is, guys, at the current moment, I think you're out on guys like Dan Lanning. I don't know if a guy like Jeff Brom looks at this situation. I don't even know if a guy like Kenny Dillingham looks at this situation and says, man, do I really want to be involved with this? And that is the worry. Now, there is one thing that my grandpappy used to tell me, my grandfather, Nunzio, we called him Pop. Money talks and bullshit walks. And coaches are from a different breed. They are narcissistic as it comes. They are as competitive. I can go to LSU and win. Give me an incentive-laden deal. And I think Kiffin would do that. But money talks and BS walks. It always has. It always will. It always has and it always will. Bottom line is this. I've been told by people I trust that the Board of Supervisors try to calm down the situation and are still going to go after top targets. Let's see what happens here. So maybe there's still some hope. All right. Let me take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about recruiting, some things that are going on right now for this current staff in recruiting. Then I'll take the rest of your thoughts, questions, concerns, and super chats as we round up this week. Stay with us. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month, and also doing those $99 tune-up promotion. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority. Hey, Southwest Louisiana, are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat, go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. We're back. Bro, I've never in my life seen and heard, bro. Oh, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. We'll continue here. All right. Let's get to recruiting really quickly. So I kind of wanted to end today's show talking about recruiting. So Frank Wilson takes over on Sunday. And normally when people take over as interims, you see what happened like at Penn State. When guys commit to schools and they really like the head coach. And when that happens, normally a lot of people start decommitting. A lot like what happened at Penn State. Frank Wilson has done a very elite job along with Austin Thomas at holding things down at the current moment. I got to give them, and you got to give them a lot of credit. They have locked this thing down as of right now. Now, I do think that some people are going to decommit as this goes on unless Frank goes undefeated or you show promise. I look at all this situation and say to myself that the quote-unquote godfather of LSU has done an elite job at maintaining the current situation and status. When I look at Frank and I look at Austin, whether it be guys that are probably going to be hitting the portal and prepping for that, high school recruiting, they've done a really good job. Now, what is the status of Lamar Brown? What is the status of guys like Blaine Bradford? And I do think the both of them are up in the air at the current moment. I do not know if the Bradford family, with everything that's going on, is going to make a flip here, not knowing who the next head coach is going to be. There could be promises, concerns, whatever. That's going to be very interesting to see. Lamar Brown, what situation happens there? But right now, ironically, the way that I get this and understand this is they've done such a good job from an NIL perspective to hold things down at the current moment, and that they're going to get the best head coach in the country and talking to recruits, that the good thing is that the kids that have been committed have committed to LSU for LSU. You've gone through this. You went through this 3.5 years ago, and you were able to maintain. Ed did a decent job at trying to maintain for some of what it's worth. And you had guys like Blake Baker, for all that it's worth, that continue recruiting guys like Harold Perkins just in case that he was remained on staff. Because no decommitments has been a massive deal. When that starts happening, it puts a situation where that programs start depleting and you have to rebuild. Because, guys, if you don't recruit from a high school level, things start getting really bad. I think that coaches on the current staff have situations where they see and have been told that, hey, man, you want to stay here? Well, do a great job. Kind of like the Ed Orgeron, Pete Carroll story. And I do think that you have some situations like that. It's been an amazing job by Frank, and it's been an amazing job by Austin. And I say those two names, but it's been an amazing job by everybody in that building that's involved. Kevin Bolden, J.R. Belton, Sherman Wilson, Sam Petito, all of those guys that have been involved at holding this thing down for right now and constantly recruiting is why people have not decommitted. You got to give him a lot of credit for it, man. And it's a massive plus to Frank Wilson for if he is the next coach, who knows? If you go and get somebody and they want to, bring in, who are they going to keep? Who are they going to bring in? It's got to be a massive plus for this entire staff on how they've held on to things. And we'll see if they do that for sure. All right. Let's get to some super chats here. Destroy Carnage on YouTube with a $5 super chat says, what's your opinion on Kelvin Shepherd? I think what is in the admin of football ops, I think he's a good X's and O's coach, and you can teach him the politics. So here's what I personally think of Kelvin Shepherd. Okay, here's a couple of things. Let's talk about what my opinion of him as a coach is. I think he's a damn good coach. I think he has shown from a defensive standpoint that he could definitely call plays and that he's a great play caller. My worry, and I've seen a lot of people pushing for Kelvin Shepherd, and it is their God-given American right to push for him, but how does he put a staff together? How does he recruit? How is he in situational play calling from the offensive side of things on fourth down in the SEC when you got to go for it on 4th and 2 versus Alabama? Who would he bring in as his OC? So I look at this situation, and listen, we have only been talking about who the next head coach is going to be. Guys, the staff that the next head coach will have is just as important, if not more important. You know, there's only a select few of coaches in the country where the staff from one side of the ball might not matter as much, but it always matters. So I see a lot of people pushing for that. But guys, here's my God's honest opinion. I would rather Frank Wilson than I would Kelvin Shepherd. If you're going to go that route, an LSU guy and someone tied to LSU like that, Frank has just more experience that can maneuver this. Frank, you know that he would recruit his rear end off. You know that him and Austin and raising money and recruiting would be absolutely ridiculous. So I got to be real with you. Kelvin Shepherd would be very down my list. I think Louisiana and LSU is the only place where you look at a former play caller or former player and say, let's go get him. I get that. I understand that. But I just don't think it's realistic. And here's another truth. I don't think in 1,000 years Jeff Landry would allow Kelvin Shepherd to be hired. That's what I think. That's what I think. As much as I love him as a play caller, as much as I think he's a good coach, I do have a lot of worries on that. How does he function as staff? What does he do in recruiting? You know, can he go sit down with a booster and raise funds? Those are all things that you have got to see. And I ask the question, guys, can you risk that? Can you risk somebody learning on the job? Right now, can you risk that? So I'd rather Frank in that situation if you're asking me personally. Frank has basically paid my entire mortgage today. Thank you, Frank. He says, you're right about the John Summerall situation. L isn't going to risk their wrath. I was using that to make my point. Landry isn't going to make the hire and risk other boosters' wrath either. I was trying to calm people's nerves. Boosters will get their guy. Very well may. But again, Frank, to your point, I think you're right on a couple of things. I think you're massively right on the booster thing, but I think that he doesn't understand the game. Oh, we asked Lane Kiffin to be the head coach, but he won't take the deal. I don't think he's going to back down from the incentive deal. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. That one, Frank, I will concede. So you said earlier, hey, you need to concede this. I will concede. I don't know what the man ultimately will do on that part. You're right. I don't know. The John Summerall thing, I don't have any questions, thoughts, or concerns about what I've told you as the truth. That also does not, and I want to make this very, 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 very clear. Understand what I'm saying. I don't know if Jeff Landry won't get in that fight. He very well might get in that fight and say, I think John Summerall is the best coach for LSU. Sounds great. But you're going to get some political wrath behind it. I don't know what he's going to do. I am not guessing. I know for a fact that people have called him and told him to back off on that situation. If he goes to Auburn, let him go. Let him go. So if you get in a situation where that boosters are telling him, you better go get Lane Kiffin and give him $45 to $50 million guaranteed? Does he concede on that part? Frank, you might be 1,000% correct. I don't know that. The John Summerall thing, I wouldn't have run it if I didn't have multiple assurances. So we'll see. All right, Kyle with a $5 super chat says, have you heard from practice? I haven't. Not really. My focus has been a lot of other places. I have heard. Here's what I have heard about practice. I think the receiver room has been shaken up a little bit. I have heard that competition at quarterback is starting to heat up a little bit, and that's about it. Everything coming out of LSU right now has nothing to do with practice and everything to do with the coaching search. Frank Wilson did invite and call and text all former players to come to practices, and I like that. Now, here's something that's truthful. Here's something that's truthful. Guys, BK did let former players at practice. I don't know this narrative that's trying to be pushed. I've been at practices when you've been there, when they've been there. I visibly have seen Andrew Whitworth at practice. I have visibly seen Tyrann Mathieu at practice. I have visibly seen Jamal Adams at a practice. So for all of that being said, I mean, BK did not shy away from players being there. Look, everybody wants to be mad at BK. I get it. Sometimes you can't lie, though. You get what I'm saying? Like, let me point this out. Here's just some guys I personally seen at practice. I wrote this down. I wasn't going to talk about it. I've seen Jordan Jefferson, Andrew Whitworth, Jamal Adams, Booger McFarland, Kyle Williams, who's a coach there, clearly. Derek Stingley. Ethan Posick, Will Clapp, Duke Riley, Devon Godshaw, Andrew Anthony, Damon Clark, Cade York, Forster Morrow. I've seen all of those dudes that I visibly remember being at practices that I was at. I've never, like, that whole part and that being painted, that's not fair to BK. That's not fair to BK, brother. It just isn't. We can hate him. We don't have to like him, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Warhead has become a member on the YouTube channel along with Dylan. Thank you both so much for becoming members on the YouTube channel. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Glenn with a $5 super chat says, if Woodward leaves, would it affect Johnson's future? Heavens no. Heavens no. I feel very confident on that one. I mean, listen, I've talked about this. I don't think that Jay Johnson and Scott Woodward are seeing eye to eye right now. There are things that I've just heard. I talked about it literally when I got back from Omaha, that Scott Woodward better do better from a TV revenue standpoint. He didn't. William Tate made him go all into men's basketball for what it's worth. And neither one of them are going to be here. The next AD is going to have to understand what it means, what LSU baseball means. Guys, let me tell you something, and this is a fact. There are, like, Shaq donates and gives money to men's basketball. You have more boosters that will give money for baseball than men's basketball. It's panning out. Like, that's not even a discussion right now. So, no, I don't think that would happen. 337 Brandon says Jeff Landry will be on AFR at 4 p.m. to pour more gas on the fire. I'm sure it is. Stupid. Peyton Gate, hey, why don't we end this? Why don't we let him not speak? Both of them. Peyton Gates with a $5 super chat says, do you think Lane was interviewed for Bama? No. I just think he would have went for it if he wanted to leave Ole Miss. No, he wasn't. Chris Love on 3 says he wasn't offered. Chandler Pope with a $2 super chat says, are we getting Lane? Let's just keep it real. I don't know, guys. I really don't. I really don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I don't think Lane knows. So we won't know if Lane doesn't know. I don't know. I think anybody telling you that we're getting Lane. Let me end it like this. As the show's kind of ending here. Let me end this. A lot of you have DM'd me, texted me, called me. I'm hearing Dan Mullen. I'm hearing Josh Heupel. No, you're not. No, you are not. No, you're not. I promise you're not. So all those lies that your uncle's telling you, your uncle's lying to you because they don't know. LSU says, what former players went to practice today? I'm not sure. I don't even think they've had practice yet. They posted the picture on Twitter if you want to see who went yesterday, but I'm not sure. They hadn't had it today. Zach Fontenot with a $10 super chat says, have seen a lot of this morale clause with BK's contract and was curious your take. We talked about this earlier and if it's true or not. And also believe Landry should shut his mouth and work in silence. Don't make it more toxic. I agree with that. The second part. I don't stop making this so toxic. I have not heard the BK thing. I have not heard the reduced buyout. Here's the question that I have. Here's the question we haven't talked about. What is BK going to do? Guys, there's going to be a lot of coaching openings, right? Meaning there's a lot of openings around the country that are going to happen. I'm simply asking, what does Brian Kelly do? Does Brian Kelly still want to get into coaching? Does he? Does he still want to coach? Guys, I don't know that. It would massively help LSU. Massively help LSU from a financial standpoint. Then you're not on the hook, and then maybe you would be able to do whatever you need to do. But then Jeff Landry can't fire, then the whole thing with Scott Woodward is a moot point. But I get what he's still saying. Like, hey, we were still on the hook for $53 million. What does BK do, guys? Does he take any one of those jobs? I don't know. There's going to be a lot, and I think that there are some desperate programs that would give Brian Kelly a look. Brian Kelly's 64 years old. He might go home and retire and say, I'm done with this. I don't know. Kyle with a $2 super chat. Will we finally see Billiot Wright Francis? Please. I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe later in the year, like those guys I'm sure are redshirting, and then maybe after Bama you can get them involved, but let them keep their shirt. I wouldn't play them the last month. I know the bowl game's still free. I don't know if you see them. I think you'd see like guys like Chris Hilton. I do think Carius Kern's an interesting piece here on where he plays. So we'll see. Kevin Grant with a $5 super chat says, keep the same staff and give these folks a chance. So here's the thing with that. The problem with that is listen, I haven't talked about this all week. Just because when Brian Kelly came in here and he cleaned staff doesn't mean, and it's something the defensive staff didn't work, does not mean that that the next coach, if he cleans staff, it won't work for him. That's not what that means. Don't let Brian Kelly's failures make you think that another coach that comes in here with the staff that he wants, that it would be a failure. Do I think that there's some people that he could keep on staff? Yes. But you can't go in there like that. Coaches don't want you to tell them what to do, nor should you. You hired them. Let them do what they need. Let me just say this. If Lane Kiffin comes in here and you're starting to dictate what he should and shouldn't do, you're no better than Scott Woodward. Guys, Brian Kelly did not want Blake Baker. Newsflash to all of you. He didn't. Not guessing, he didn't. You can't be meddling in recruiting. You can't be meddling with staff. You can't do it, man. You just can't do it. Just because it didn't work for BK doesn't mean it's not going to work for others. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good night or good day. Forgot it was 1 p.m. Y'all have a good one. Peace.